Do you suffer from painful bloating and poor gut health every single day, no matter what you eat? If so, this video is for you. In this video, we'll reveal the simple trick that you can use to improve your digestion from the very next meal, the best foods to eat and those to avoid to improve your digestion, and one super simple Japanese trick to improve your digestion by 100%. And if you stay to the end, we'll give you one supplement that will fix your digestive process no matter what your issue, so you can eat whatever you like without worrying about food again. The first tip is the 5-10-15 rule. Now this is something I picked up from a good friend of mine, Owen Lacey in Ireland, and will dramatically improve your digestion from the very next meal. First, you want to take 5 deep breaths before you eat. This puts your body in what we call a rest and digest state, or the parasympathetic state. This is where your system is relaxed enough for you to eat, where you don't get bloating and reflux disruptions from your food. On the flip side, if you try to eat in what we call the fight and flight system, or the sympathetic dominant system, that is when you're more likely to get bloating and digestive discomfort. When you're stressed or excited, your body isn't as good at digesting. Most of the blood flow goes to the extremities, like your arms and legs, and it doesn't go to your digestive organs where it's needed to digest your food. Think about running away from a lion. Your body doesn't need to worry about digestive enzymes and stomach acid production if it feels like it's in danger. And that's exactly how it feels when those stress hormones, adrenaline and cortisol, are raised in that sympathetic dominant or fight and flight state. So one of the easiest ways to put you in that state is to take 5 deep breaths before you eat. Another easy way to do it is to give thanks for the food you're eating, or to say grace. Now, once you've put your body in that rest and digest state, the number 10 means I want you to put your knife and fork down 10 times during your meal. This is to allow you to chew. Remember, your stomach does not have teeth. If you partially chew food and swallow it, your stomach has to work significantly harder, putting more stress on your digestive system. And finally, the 15 relates to 15-minute meals. Now, most people eat very, very quickly. Not only is that bad for digestion, you often overeat because you can't tell that you're full. By extending your meals to at least 15 minutes, it's going to make it much easier for your body to digest that food. And as a bonus tip, you'll probably end up eating less also. Tip number 2, don't follow the SUMO diet. Are you someone that skips breakfast but has a huge dinner? Did you know this is the worst thing you could do for your digestion? During the light hours is when your digestive system works best. As evening comes and the sun sets and darkness is upon us, that's when your digestive system starts to slow down. So if you breakfast like a pauper and dinner like a king, you're going to make it significantly harder for you to digest your food. We recommend breakfast like a king and dinner like a pauper. The larger meal should be in the earlier part of the day, and the smaller meal should be towards the evening. The SUMO diet is eating 10,000 calories and then heading straight to bed, where your body struggles to digest it. You also increase the chance of you gaining weight. And when you eat like that, not only does it ruin your sleep, it can make you feel pretty hungover the next day. The best way to avoid this is, as we said, eat your bigger meals in the earlier part of the day and leave at least 3 hours between eating your dinner and going to bed. Tip number 3, eat more of this taboo food. Now, you've probably been told to avoid saturated fats because they're bad for you and they cause heart disease. But this is incorrect. Not only is the cholesterol found in saturated fats essential for the functioning of every single cell inside your body, that cholesterol is essential for brain function, especially memory, and is the precursor to all of your sex hormones, including testosterone, estrogen, progesterone, and pregnenolone. Now, contrary to popular belief, one of the best foods out there is butter, full of saturated fats. One of the reasons butter is so good for you is because it contains something called butyric acid. Butyric acid is very similar to a substance produced by your gut bacteria called butyrate, and they both have all the same properties. That butyric acid, or butyrate, actually feeds the lining of your digestive tract. So if you've ever heard of leaky gut syndrome, where you have hyperpermeability of the tight junctions in the small intestine, i.e. they are too permeable and they're allowing food through, and that's creating inflammation, butyric acid and butyrate feed the lining of those cells to keep them healthy. This in turn promotes better digestion and a stronger gut barrier, reducing the chance of you getting food intolerances. Butyric acid is also an anti-inflammatory, which not only helps reduce pain and inflammation in the gut, it works systemically around the whole body. This is especially important for people with conditions like IBS or IBD, like Crohn's and colitis. Finally, butyrate helps gut motility. which is how quickly food passes through your digestive tract. Proper motility ensures digestion happens at the right place. Too quick and you end up with diarrhea. Too slow and you end up with constipation. Consuming butter on a regular basis helps with those colonocytes, which are the cells inside the walls of the colon. Now, we recommend you use unpasteurized butter from grass-fed cows that haven't been treated with antibiotics. That means the milk that makes the butter is not heated up at super high temperatures to kill the beneficial bacteria inside the butter. But we do not recommend you eat unpasteurized dairy from cows that are in factory farms and that are not fed grass. Butter alone won't fix your digestive issues, so we're going to talk about some of the foods that do. Number 4, eat more prebiotic foods. Prebiotics are the fuel that feed the probiotics or the bacteria in your system. You can kind of think of it as the diesel that goes into the engine that runs your car. Now, food contains fibers, and those fibers aren't digested properly by your human cells. But what they do is they travel all the way to the colon and they are fermented by your gut bacteria. Prebiotic fibers like inulin and FOS or fructooligosaccharides. Interestingly, that's where you get low FODMAP from. The F and the O in the FODMAP stands for fructooligosaccharides, which is effectively fiber that comes from vegetables. Now, in some people who can't digest it, temporarily it needs to be removed. But if you want good digestion long term, you're going to have to add them back in slowly because their job is to feed the beneficial bacteria inside your system. One of the best prebiotic foods is Jerusalem artichoke. Jerusalem artichoke contains something called inulin, and gut bacteria love inulin. They eat the inulin and create those short-chain fatty acids like butyrate that we spoke about earlier. Now, if you're going to add in more prebiotic fibers, especially things like Jerusalem artichoke, you must go slowly. Take it from me, you do not want to add in prebiotic fibers too quickly because one of the jobs of bacterial fermentation is to produce gas like hydrogen. And if you produce too much gas like hydrogen, you will feel it. Distended stomachs and flatulence is exactly what you'll get if you add too much prebiotic food or prebiotic fiber in too quickly. Now, we always recommend a food first approach, but there are some supplements that will really help increase your prebiotic fiber load, and I'll show you those at the end of this video. Tip number 5, eat more probiotic foods. Now, a probiotic is effectively bacteria in a capsule that gives you a beneficial response. However, probiotic foods are foods that contain beneficial bacteria. Most probiotic foods are found in things like fermented dairy, kimchi, sauerkraut, and even fizzy drinks like kombucha. Consuming these foods on a regular basis increase what we call bacterial diversity. Now, there is still so much we don't know about the bacteria that inhabit our microbiome. But what we do know is having a diverse range of bacteria is extremely beneficial for you. One of the easiest ways to do that is to eat both a range of different types and colors of foods, but also to add in regular probiotic foods. When I work with clients privately, I like them to try and add in at least one probiotic food each day and to vary it as much as possible. Number 6, hara hachi bu. Now, this is a Japanese phrase that I have completely butchered, so I apologize to any Japanese people watching this video, but it means eat until you are 8 out of 10 parts full. The more food you eat in a short amount of time places more stress on your digestive system. The stomach has to work harder to produce gastric juice, the pancreas has to work harder to produce more enzymes, and your liver and gallbladder have to work harder to produce more bile. Eating until you are 8 out of 10 parts full means you'll eat less food and it's significantly easier on your digestive system to process the food. Number 7, take bitters. Certain herbs have been used for thousands of years to improve digestion, such as gentian root. What they will do is slightly increase your acid production. This is beneficial for 2 reasons. 1, if you have acid reflux, that lower esophageal sphincter doesn't close properly unless you have sufficient acid inside your symptom. Now, if you watch any of my videos before, you'll know that I think Candida and H. pylori are 2 of the biggest causes of acid reflux because they suppress your acid and interfere with that sphincter function. Consuming herbs like gentian root before you eat can slightly stimulate acid production to keep that lower esophageal sphincter closed. And when you have sufficient acid production inside the stomach, all of the other downstream digestive processes like enzymes from the pancreas and bile from the liver and gallbladder work more efficiently. Remember, the stomach is the most important aspect of digestion. When you have sufficient acid from the stomach, all of the other downstream processes work significantly better. Tip number 8, cook your veggies. Now, most people have the mistaken belief that they need to steam or partly cook their vegetables to preserve the nutrients inside the vegetables. But what they don't realize is that vegetables are a really poor source of nutrients. For the most part, the reason we eat vegetables is because of the fiber that is then fermented by our gut bacteria. In fact, the fibers can't even be digested by your human cells. That's why we eat them, so that they can feed the bacteria. But the more you cook the vegetables, the easier they are for you to digest and the easier it is for the gut bacteria to ferment them. I would argue that the stronger your digestive system is, the less you need to cook your vegetables, but the weaker your digestive system is, if you're someone who bloats on a regular basis, who suffers from poor digestion, you like to cook those veggies until they turn into baby food. And then slowly, as your digestive system improves, you can have them rawer and rawer. And finally, tip number 9 complements tip number 8, which is don't eat raw vegetables. Okay, we said before that cooking the veggies makes them significantly easier to digest, but the hardest vegetables to digest completely are the raw ones. Normally, when it comes to digestion, cold and raw is always harder than cooked and warm, especially when you're talking about certain vegetables such as those in the cruciferous family of vegetables. That's cabbage and kale and Brussels sprouts and broccoli. It would be a mistake to eat these foods raw. I see a lot of raw vegans doing this, unfortunately, and I do not recommend you eat those vegetables raw. They contain compounds to protect the plant from being eaten, such as goitrogens, which can then damage your thyroid function. I have seen plenty of cases of people who ended up in the hospital from consuming raw cruciferous vegetables that damaged their thyroid gland. Also, raw vegetables contain something called oxalates that are like tiny little crystals found inside of vegetables. Now, we have specific oxalate degrading bacteria. The problem is when you take too many antibiotics and if you kill those bacteria, we don't have a probiotic to replace them. So that means you'll never be able to digest them again. Things like spinach and kale become foods that you just can't break down. But cooking will help, which is another reason we do not recommend eating raw vegetables unless you have fantastic digestion, which is probably not you. That's why you're here. And finally, one of the easiest ways to improve your overall gut health is to add in more prebiotic fibers. In my experience, the easiest way to do that is to take some supplemental fibers. Now, we created a product called Reseed R1, which contains specific fiber to grow 5 of the most important keystone bacteria inside your system that contains things like lactobacillus and bifidobacterium. For the most part, most people already have lactobacillus and they have bifidobacterium inside their system. They just don't have enough. So by giving you the right prebiotic fibers to feed those bacteria, you'll find that your overall digestion improves and you can eat whatever you like. We've left a link to this particular product in the description below. Hopefully this video was helpful. Please like and follow along for more videos in the future.